All right, Randy Moss, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Doing great, man. Appreciate you guys for having me.
Oh, well, the pleasure is all on this side. So I want to start off with some contemporary stuff. I presume you follow NFL still pretty closely with some of your commentating and analysis gigs. So a frequent topic of discussion amongst Minnesota Vikings fans is Kirk Cousins. And by my count, you caught touchdown passes from 13 different quarterbacks. So I wanted to know what your general thought was on the Vikings quarterback, Kirk Cousins, and if he has it to take the Vikings to February football.
Well, I really think that, Kirk Cousins has been through a lot, just coming from, the football team, being able to get his contract with the Vikings. I like Kirk Cousins in this system. I really think that when you look at what's around him, you have a great running back in Cook. You got a damn good, respectable receiving core, one of the tops in the league with Thielen and Jefferson. So I really think that. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Sure
can.
So I really think that with him having weapons around me, I think when you look at this day and age, and not taking anything from Kirk Cousins, but I think from the athletic side of you seeing a lot of these quarterbacks from Mahomes to Jackson, to Allen, to Murray, you're seeing all these athletic quarterbacks being able to get out the pocket and being able to use their athletic ability. And I think when you look at Kirk Cousins, he doesn't look like, he's on that level of one of the top athletic quarterbacks. So with all that said, I think that, I think when you look at after, I left the Vikings, it was more on defense was just leading the way there. And then, it kind of went away. And now that offense is leading the way. And what I'm trying to
Did it go out?
Think so.
I lost your audio, Randy.
and how they get it around. I think that just a lot of things you have to look at, and just being able to go compete for a Super Bowl in this day and age. When you look at what the Patriots was able to do, spend money in free agency, and haven't even went into the draft yet. So I think that there's a lot of key missing pieces to the Vikings to go with a quarterback like Kirk Cousins. I think they got some good pieces around him, but I think if you add a little bit more, I think that Kirk Cousins has shown some signs of being able to lead a franchise like the Vikings. Like I said, he got the pieces around him. So just put a few more pieces around him. I think he could put the Vikings in, as the quarterback in a game in February. But I think Dalvin Cook is that answer.
Okay, excellent. Dom, what do you got for Randy tonight?
Yeah, so you kind of touched on it a little bit, answering, about Kirk Cousins. But my question was, with the defense being improved to kind of where Mike Zimmer wants it after this offseason, how far do you think the Vikings can go as is with that defense?
Well, I think when you look at the way the offenses are being put together now, when you look at, the Chiefs, what they were able to do 2 years ago, when you look at, the Tampa Bay Bucks down there, with what they've been able to put together. So I just think that it's all really based on your offensive weapons and being able to create the mismatches, within defenses. And I think that, Cousins has shown that he can throw the ball. You go back to the soundbite coming, through the tunnel talking about you like that. That was just a hell of a game that he had and being able to put the ball in the air. So he's shown signs of being that quarterback to be able to lead, a franchise. But one thing you guys as fans need to understand is it really takes a lot, out of a player to be able to home in every week, to come together. And, the game is not, the game is getting, I guess, a little softer, as they say, as far as the where they're changing the rules. But I think it's getting a little bit more complicated because you have these intelligent coaches around the National Football League. And the main thing that they're trying to do, guys, no matter if it's an interior lineman, a linebacker, a safety, or even a quarterback, they're trying to create mismatches. And I think as, I was never good at chess, but I could play checkers. So I kind of understand the chess match that you have to play with coordinators. And I think that, like I started out, if you're able to put guys around the quarterback like Kirk Cousins, because he has shown some signs, and I think that the Vikings is headed in the right directions. I just that you see other teams doing it. So it's very interesting to me. I got high hopes for the Vikings, and I look forward to them having a good year.
All right.
Sally, you're up. What do you got?
Okay. Hi, Randy. And I hate to do this to you guys, but you know me, I live in the past. So, Randy, I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit about the 2002 season. That was your first year without Denny as your head coach. And then Mike Tice comes in and he wants to dedicate his entire offensive philosophy to you. He even names it the Randy ratio. How did you feel about that at the time? Did you like that pressure? And what would your reaction be now as a commentator for ESPN if a coach named their offensive philosophy after one player? What would you think about that?
Well, I really didn't pay much mind to the Randy ratio, because I've always felt, and I had the philosophy of being able to throw me the ball. If I'm doubled and tripled, then you give it to the next man that's open. But if they're not able to make the play, then throw the ball to me. And so I think that's how the Randy ratio was created, just being able to get me so many targets a quarter. And I don't know if that took away from, the wins that season, took away from a lot of our focuses. So I didn't really pay attention really to the Randy ratio, but I think that now just being able to sit back and be an analyst and commentate on the game now, I think, like I said, when you look at a guy like Michael Thomas and how he's used in the New Orleans Saints offense, how you're able to move guys around. I think that when you hear me talk a lot, throughout the season on ESPN, Sunday and Monday, I think the one thing that I look at receivers is, you heard me talking earlier about creating mismatches, because you have these guys out here. I mean, you have Pitts, the young rookie tight end from Florida, just ran a 4.4. So where do you think they're going to have him at? You think they're going to have him in a 3-point stance with his hand in the ground, or they're going to split him out wide to be able to create mismatches? You get what I'm saying? So I think as the game has evolved from when I got in the game in 98, and where it was a 2-receiver set sprinkled in with a 3-receiver set, and then now it's become a 3 or 4 or 5-receiver set. So like I say, when you look at the game now and how the game has grown and how it has, expanded. To create the mismatch.
I think too, in fairness to you, like the Randy ratio wasn't just slants like Michael Thomas. It was 40 yards downfield, and we're going to throw it to you half the time. So
It was picking peanuts.
yeah, exactly. They don't play the PlayStation like us, right?
Well, the thing about it is, you have to really look at my build. Being a basketball player, I think that most offensive coordinators wanted to keep me out of the middle. You know what I'm saying? Just for the contact, not being able to take that big mismatches. I think mine was just more of just being able to read coverages. And when y'all see the hand, when you see the hand go up, that's just basically me just trying to read the defense. And if the quarterback has time and he's able to buy time, then that's a possible big play or touchdown. So that's basically how the high hand was developed. It was a good, thing by, Dante being able to slide, and you see my boy over there, Big Mac, being able to, give him some time. So like I say, man, you always hear me talk about my teammates, and you hear me always talking about the love that I have for my teammates, because one thing that I did learn at a young age, being able to win on all levels that I played on, it is 11 men out there. I was able to go both ways for most of, growing up. And, I didn't really, take anything for granted going out there, because I know just any given moment, any hit, any wrong move could be it. So, the 14 years that I was able to have.
Oh, did we lose video there?
Wrong. And like I said, man, there was just a lot of things talked about me, throughout my career, good or bad. And like I say, man, the people that I love, that I respect throughout the game, man, that was important to me, man. I still have relationships with them today. So, man, like I say, I think that, the game is, what we play, the fans, you guys root and stuff like that. But man, we hold more than the game just in our hearts. And like I say, the relationships just grow from the field to more like family members.
Great. And Bryant, now to your point, or playing left tackle and an offense, knowing that, we're going to take the deep shot and just, we need that time to buy time for Randy to get deep. Did that change the way that you blocked on a play, knowing that, like, hey, like, all I need is to buy Dante this extra little bit of time, because, Freak's going to get downfield quickly?
Yeah. And then I knew if I could buy him time, that'll get me off the field faster, because we scored a touchdown. So
keep you fresh throughout the game.
Time as I could, to get, those big plays down the field.
Well, that's probably why your defenses weren't all that good to start, because
they're always on the damn field.
So. Let me say this about Mac. When we drafted Mac, coming from the University of Miami, of course I didn't know his size, how big of a man that he was until I seen him up, face to face. But, the one thing that I'll never forget about when we drafted, Bryant McKinney was, what they was talking about on draft day, that he never gave up a sack in college. And I said, we finna get him. So I think that when you look at, a guy like that coming from a prestigious school like the University of Miami, with all their history and the competition that they played, for him not being able to give up a sack in college, and then us being able to draft him, like I say, when the fans hear, touchdown and, touchdown Vikings, or when SportsCenter plays, from Culpepper to Moss, or, whatever the play may be, it's guys like that where you asked him the question, hey, Big Mac, how did you feel when you had to buy time for him? It's kind of like, when they drafted a guy that high with that much status, that's what I'm looking at. This guy never gave up a sack in college. So you sit up here saying, so when I sit up here and say, hey, we're about to go deep, hey, Mac, I need a little bit more time. That's not just a saying. I know what this man could do.
You could trust him on it.
So. For us to be able to go out here and connect and make plays. And I know, Mac, the feeling is mutual, for you to be coming onto a team, well, damn, I'm coming on the team with Culpepper and Moss.
Yeah.
So like I say, man, it was just more of the respect that we had, and just being able to come from college with that type of play and them accolades, man. It was just like I said, it was a match made in heaven for us to be able to go out and make that type of success, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So then, obviously we as Vikings fans love seeing that connection. So for you, with all your personal individual success and being an all-time great now, however, maybe it's my bias, but I have you as the GOAT, and a lot of people do as well. But either way, you're on that Mount Rushmore. So being an all-time great and watching the game, you do now with NFL Live and all your work with ESPN, does it get frustrating at times watching that, knowing that, like, if there's a slight misexecution or something, like, you're on top of that, or is it something you can just sit back and take it in like a normal fan?
Well, it's kind of like a double-edged sword for me, because as an analyst, I sit there and study the game and sit there and analyze the game. And then I also have, the players that I like watching. I mean, I would be sitting here lying to you and say I don't, like certain players. I like the DK Metcalf, and I respect every player in the National Football League. You know, that's the one thing that, you know, that I check my pride and my ego in it and at the door, and I know that the game has changed. The game has, you know, maybe, you know, look easier to others. Like you look at a guy like Aaron Donald, and you know how easy he makes the game look. So it's kind of like when I sit back and reflect and just look how he plays the game, and I'm like, wow, was I able to do and make plays like that? So when I look at the YouTube plays that, you know, that I was able to make, it kind of, you know, I'm still, you know, able to go back and be in awe of being able to go out and just say, you know, I was able to, you know, be a big part of the National Football League, being able to be one of the all-time greats in the National Football League. But, you know, when I look at the game now, like I say, I try to teach more now, because I think that the game is only going to get better.
I lost your audio for a second there, Randy. But when you
when you hear the uproar, excuse me if I'm breaking up. Is it me breaking up?
Just a little bit. We're all
okay.
Good, though.
So when you see all the rule changes and stuff like that, you see that the fans and, you know, some players just, you know, look at it as a negative light. But, you know, it's kind of like, well, if they're going to continue to change the game, it's time for you to try to educate the players on, you know, you got to be able to, you know, not lead with your head. You got to be able to lead with your shoulders. So like I said, man, instead of getting mad at the players or disappointed in the way that players are playing, I think it's just more on just trying to educate the players on just making this, continuing to make this game a better football game.
On educating players and teaching. So I write about the Vikings, and there was a period of a couple of weeks where we were kind of starved for off-season news. And then seemingly out of nowhere, Keenan McCardle was named the wide receiver coach for the Vikings. And we were super pumped about that because most common folks that watch football know who he is. So when I was prepping for the show tonight, it dawned on me, would Randy Moss ever be interested in coaching wide receivers in the NFL?
Well, I think that, you know, to answer your question, no. And the reason why is because the coaches put so much time, so much effort and sacrifice into their job and their craft, making sure that we're prepared or we're ready to go out here and win a football game, that the sacrifice that you have to make, you know, as a player, you know, you multiply that times two, you know, as a coach. Mm-hmm. So I think that, you know, for me to be older and, you know, happily married, got my family, just loving and living life, mm-hmm. Man, it'll take away a lot from me right now to be a coach in the National Football League, or just a coach, period. And, you know, just a big up to all the coaches out there, not just in the National Football League, but just being able to sacrifice, you know, from their, you know, loved ones, significant others, to just being able to give back to these kids, because I was, you know, one of those kids that needed to be around, you know, coaches and other players and stuff like that to make it to where I was. So like I said, man, for me to be able to now to be a coach, man, no, they go through a lot, man. And I don't think I'm ready for that type of sacrifice, no.
All right, fair enough. Well, we can squash that. I wouldn't say it's a long-standing rumor, but it's always been thought of the cool thing, if you were interested, that you'd come to your favorite purple team. Bryant, you said that, I think I asked you this when I first met you, that you said you might be interested in some sort of college coaching.
College, in college I probably would, but not like that, not the assistant O-line coach, you know, coming help with technique and things like that, where I don't have to be there full time. Ed Reed did that when he, like the first year or two, when he got out, and he was telling me how much time it took away from him, you know, trying to be a coach. And I said, well, you got to think about it. The coaches were there before we got there. The coaches were there after we left too. So, you know, we thought we were there for a long period of time, but they were there longer. So,
yeah. All right. I feel you, B-Mac.
All right. So I played Division I AA, so I always root for guys that come from those smaller schools. I know you went to Marshall, Mac School, non-Power 5 conference. So I was wondering if you could walk us through what it was like entering the NFL, coming from a smaller school like Marshall, and if that kind of made you have a chip on your shoulder more to prove than some of the other guys that were on the team.
Well, Dominique, let me educate you a little bit. I went to Florida State first for 1 year and, got in a little bit of trouble and had to leave Florida State and come to Marshall. So basically, before I came to Marshall, Dominique, I was already polished. And, what I was able to learn, I mean, Mac, you go against the Florida State Seminoles once a year. And I think that when you look at the way that, you look at a Miami Hurricane, Florida State or Florida State game, I spent time in that offense and was around some great players, some great coaches, Bobby Bowden, his son Jeff Bowden, Coach Mark Rick. So, when I say I was polished as a wide receiver, being able to come from a small town out of West Virginia, I learned a lot in just a short time at Florida State. And then before I was, kicked out or thrown out of Florida State, the springtime, the off season is when the pros come back and work out with the guys. So I was able to get me an off season in with the pros, until, I went back home and got in trouble. So that's what I mean by I was a polished wide receiver for coming to Marshall and being able to get to Marshall in 1AA and then them moving up to Division 1A my second year. I was ready for that jump. I think that guys coming from smaller schools, I look at a guy like, Khalil Mack and just being able to make the impact that he was able to make. And, it's not really based on the school.
Audio's cutting out here.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Here it is.
So I don't know where y'all heard me. I was just talking about just being able from a smaller school. And if you're good enough, the scouts will find you.
Yeah. All right, Sally, what do you got next for Randy?
Okay, so I think about your complicated relationship with the media often when I see these guys today that are tweeting out, song lyrics or what they're having for lunch or whatever it may be, and people are trying to like hyper analyze what these tweets really mean. Are these song lyrics meaning that he's unhappy with his current situation? And they just it seems like they make stories out of nothing sometimes. And then I look back and think about you, how every little thing you did was a huge story and it lasted for months on end. So how, if Twitter was around in the early 2000s, I'm just curious, what would Moss do? Would you mess with them? Would you set the record straight? Do you think the stories would last like a day instead of months because of the fast news cycle? How would you approach it?
No, I really think that, the one thing that I had to learn with social media was how to approach and some of the things to say and some of the things to stay away from. And I think that, as a player, I don't think that I would be into social media because later in my career, I wasn't really into social media. And I think that, Sally, over, the course of my career, for 14 years and just mainly as a Viking, that, my focus was just mainly just going out there playing football. I didn't really go out much. I wasn't that type of dude. I mean, Mac could tell you, other people tell you, man, I want to build the camaraderie. I want to be there for my guys. I want to go to these, social functions if I can go through there and support my guy. But, for me, it was just all about wins and losses for me. And I think my competitive edge and juices sometimes got in the way of maybe a media sound bite or something, during or after the game. So, I look at it now and reflect back on, some of the things that I went through in the media. And, I wouldn't change it because, like I said, it's just some of the things that, you grow, you learn, you mature. But, those are some of the things that fueled me to go out there and prove people wrong of, what I heard or what someone may say. So, like I said, I wouldn't change it. And, for the social media, I don't think that because I don't really take the good comments. I wasn't the type of guy that would go home and turn on Sports Center or turn on, ESPN or like that, because I was never, a fan of just looking at my positives. I was always a fan. If I'm looking at my positives, then I'm going to have to look and critique my weaknesses. So that's why you always hear me say I always have to take the good and the bad. So for me to be just in the social media, I don't think that was me, because that's nothing that's going to help me get to my ultimate goals, winning games. That's just fueling, the fans and just getting out here chatting. Me, I'm not that rah-rah type dude. Man, I can tell you, I'm not a rah-rah guy on Sunday. I am from Monday through Saturday. I'm gonna get my teammates riled up, but on Sunday, man, it's all about business.
Yeah, so you alluded to it a little bit, a few minutes ago when you were talking about how the rules have changed in the NFL and everything. But how does it feel knowing that really the way that you played the game changed a lot of the way that the game is played today, whether it be the cover two defenses or the receivers not being able to push off like they once were, or like how does it feel knowing that you were the reason for a lot of these rule changes in the NFL?
Well, that's why when not being cocky, not being arrogant, because, when I say that I'm truly blessed from above to be able to be blessed with a talent to go out here and I, as they would say, make the game of football look so easy, man. I mean, I really put a lot of hard work, a lot of hard dedication. And you hear me keep turning back to the word sacrifice, because that's not really a word that I really used earlier in my career, because I didn't really look at it as a sacrifice. I looked at it just more on doing something that I've done since I was 6 years old. So I think now once, my family, my kids start getting older and I don't want to use getting away as a negative, but more start coming, in my life, it was just more of the sacrifice of things that I was able and unable to do just because I was just so focused on something I've been doing since I was 6 years old. So, I look at the game now of, being able to change the game, from a single safety, double safety, rolling coverages to certain sides. So like I say, man, I'm proud of my accomplishments and I stand by my words of what I say of being the greatest of all time. And I don't mean that, like I say, in a cocky or arrogance. I just look at the game of football and how it's played, man. I didn't start playing football when I was 10. I didn't start when I was 15. I've been playing the game of football since I was 6 years old. And I look at when, there was a point of time where the mothers and fathers were really contemplating on putting their kids out there because of this concussion concerns. And, one of my questions was, would my mom would have let me play at 6 years old, knowing I'm the baby of her family, of our family? And, I mean, I was really thinking about that. And I don't even know if my mom would have let me out there. And, like I say, man, I was just truly blessed, to be able to, be a multi. Like I say, I don't really like to say talk about changing the game. Like I say, you hear me talk about statements, and I don't really talk about the greatest of all times, because when I say it, I think a lot of people don't think that I give Jerry Rice his due. A lot of people don't think that I give guys like Terrell Owens their due. I respect the game to the fullest, and I do respect guys and their accomplishments and what they were able to do. But I do look at the game of football. I understand politics. I look at the game of how it's played, how the rules are changed. So, I'm not dumb to the eye, man. I got a microscopic lens also.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For all the young football players out there right now, chasing the dream, trying to be the best they can possibly be, what's the one advice that you would leave them with or give them to help them as they head down that path?
Well, I think that in this day and age, I think it was it Sally, just sitting there talking about the social media. And I think that a lot of this younger generation is losing their focus. for whatever reason it is, they're just losing their focus. And I think that, when you look at, you take back to the guys that paved the way for us and, the technology they didn't have. And you hear the stories of, we should be thankful and grateful for the technology that we have to be able to preserve and keep our bodies the way. So I think that, for me to be able to, give, any type of feedback and information, of course, is always take care of your body. It's always listen to your coach. But I think that, I think for me is if your goal or dream is, to go out and be a doctor or a dentist or a professional athlete, I think you got to be able to put your focus on what you're trying to be and what you're trying to become. And that's the best that I can give to this young generation, because like I said, I could easily say, listen to your parents, listen to your guardian, those things that I've heard, my whole life, but it's not telling you to be able to focus, and focus is not just, temporarily. It's not, 6 months. It's not 30 days. It's, if you're trying to get there and have an occupation and being a professional athlete, then that's the focus, and understand the focus that you need to be able to get there. You think about all the kids, the numbers that they say, or the percentages that they say, only 7, only 14, only this percentage gets to the National Football League. And, at the end of the day, when you start going to these combines and when you start going to these all-star camp and really see all these numbers that the people are talking about, the question you sit back and reflect on, man, are you really focused to get ahead of the curve of your graduating class? So to answer your question, I think for me is to be able to focus, because there's other guys, other athletes, there's other male, there's other females athletes out there that's in the gym right now, that's in the gym up at 5:30 in the weight room, on the basketball court, out there doing the ladder. So like I said, to be able to answer your question, I think is to be able to focus. If you want it, focus and go get it.
Randy, what about Brian and I talked about this a few weeks ago. What's to be said about player empowerment because of social media? For instance, with Russell Wilson, when he spoke to whoever it was, Dan Patrick, a couple months ago, and basically hinted at the fact that he might want to be traded, or before the Deshaun Watson stuff hit the news, when he came out and said he wanted to be traded. There was a time not long ago where a player like that would request a trade and they would look like a complete prick because they're not team oriented. But Brian and I have talked about this aspect of empowerment where somebody can get on, tell their side of the story on Twitter. Do you see social media in a positive light in those regards, so that players are given more power, or do you still think it's kind of a tool for nastiness?
I think it's really a tool for nastiness, because you look at, and the reason why I say that is because that when you look at, you look at Willard, you look at Watson, you look at Rice, you look at Moss, you look at all these situations, that's ever happened. And, it's just more on, if a guy gets in trouble or if a guy wants out, it's just really based on money. And, you can really, talk each week and every week about race, and rightfully so, because I think race plays a factor in professional sports, alongside with politics. But I really think when you look at the money that's been made, the checks that's being cut out there, I think that, that's where the nastiness comes from, because, as a fan, you just think that, a guy was just given $80 million. So, man, regardless of how you feel, you get your butt back out there and play. So, like, I think that's where the social media of the nastiness in, because the, from a fan's perspective, where you feel the, the sense of entitlement to be able to fire back at Bryant McKinney or myself of being able to make a decisions for ourselves, or being able to make a decisions for our family. So like I said, it's just more on, being able to, take it and run with it. So, there's going to be, more athletes, demanding trades, wanting out, getting in trouble and stuff like that. And I think that, you just heard me talking to, my man about being able to, focus. And I think that, that's where a lot of athletes lose their focus. And there's some times in, my career, where I was a little off the track a little bit of being able to get in trouble through the media, and then have my, whole story playing out for the next 2 weeks and not being able to go out in public and things like that. So like I said, man, just being able to bounce back and overcome that. And I think that, that's what, the fans don't really understand. It's not really all about the money. The money is for the security of, being able to secure your family, but that's not bringing you happiness or just wanting to go out there and play and win for an organization, man. There's a lot that comes with that.
Okay, fair enough. Sally, you're up.
Well, kind of to go off of that point, a crazy time in your life that I think about a lot too is the whole 2010 season. I mean, I can't imagine what a whirlwind that was for you to have that much change that quickly. So I was wondering if you could maybe speak a little bit about that and how you even wrap your mind around your career changing like that so drastically 2 times in a month and a half. And then selfishly, I just need closure on what the heck happened with Brad Childress. What did he do to you? And why is he so evil? And what kind of food was he trying to poison you with? I need to know that too.
Well,
I've lost a lot of sleep.
Let me say this. I think that 2010 season, I had a lot of high expectations for me and, just wanting to be able to know what the future held for me, know that I've been a veteran in this league. And, I just felt that, as you get older in this game and really understand the game, there's really, you can cut the BS and stop beating around the bush, like it's not like guys are figuring it out, but understand that, what they've given to the game of being able to give them the same amount of respect that me or a player gives the team or the coaching staff or even the National Football League. So I think that, me personally, my expectations for that season, was high and, things got out of control with, me not getting the ball and, not catching the ball or, the offense not moving the way that, that we planned on it to move. So then, leaving New England and coming to Minnesota was like, I'm back home and, I had high expectations of, really not picking up. Happen, with Brad Childress. I think I, stuck my foot in my mouth and said a few things that I shouldn't have said that, got back to coach, just based on our preparation and, how the team wasn't prepared and the things that he said to me that I felt was inappropriate for a coach to say about his team. And so, like I said, it got back to Coach Childress and, I guess he didn't like my response. And so that's where, things went south. And then all of a sudden it turned around to, Randy cusses out the cook. And I remember number 71, Phil Ludholt was my locker mate. I think he was on my left or my right. And I forgot the other big guy that was on my other side, but I was on in between offensive lineman and the defensive guy. And Big Mac knows on Fridays, when that food come through there, them big boys, hey man, what's over there to eat? What they got over there?
Yeah.
As I'm coming back, I'm talking to Phil. And, it's kind of like, the media made it seem like that I blurted out something, to the cook and degraded and disrespected the chef. And man, I don't even remember talking to the chef. So, whatever I said back to Phil was more on, I'm not going to eat it. I wouldn't feed it to my dog. And I guess it got back to the chef that I didn't like his food. So all of a sudden that, they make it a big deal that I'd have disrespected the chef. And then as I leave, it was kind of like the chef wanted to throw a goodbye, see you later, Randy Moss party. So if you bring your jersey, we'll burn it and we'll do this, we'll do that. So like I say, man, it was just more on, it just started out as just more on, me just wanting to come back. And I just remember, coming back and doing my press conference, at Winter Park of, Hey man, y'all pull y'all's 84 jerseys back. Pull the 84 jerseys out.
I was
back.
excited.
Yeah, and me too. So like it was just more on, me just coming and just getting with the guys that they already have in place. They had a deep bench, with Greenway and
the Williams brothers.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I think it was, Henderson, those guys been able to, still been out there. Smith been able to, go out there. So like I say, man, they had some good guys in place, when I came back. So I was excited, man. And like I say, it was just a lot that I wanted to go in. And I think after we played the New England Patriots, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, it's where things went south at because of some of the words that was exchanged. I came in to work and they brought me in on my day off to try to help with game planning and stuff like that. So like I said, man, just more me needing to stick my damn foot in my mouth and just knowing when to shut up and just knowing when to be a player and like I said, when to shut up. So I felt like a coach and I felt like I needed to say something because things was going wrong. And like I said, things went south from there. So that kind of helped with my second departure from the Vikings. That's basically it.
I remember that Patriots game and I'll never forget that game that Brandon Merriweather was sitting 30 yards behind on your side every single play. So you still had that impact, like as far as a fan watching, like they don't want to get beat by Moss. And I'm sure that was Belichick's way of saying, well, we're going to take out the best player on the other team because that's just what he does. So
I just left there. Left and I knew, from knowing Coach Belichick that he knew my mentality and he knew,
wanted to get him.
Yeah, if I would have came back and had my opportunity to hush everybody at Gillette Stadium, that's what I was coming back to do. And I knew sort of his game plan. I know I just got there to Minnesota, so I knew I wasn't going to be that big into the game plan. So I was just trying to help the game plan. And like I said, I should have stuck my foot in my mouth and said some things that I shouldn't have and just stay in the player's place.
So now, Brian, like that season, obviously, like you were here till the end when, the dome collapsed and, Favre gets knocked out and like everything went south. Like, so it wasn't just one event, it was just snowballed. But what was it like, like obviously when you were brought in as a rookie, you saw Randy at the peak. Well, I mean, his peak lasted a long time, but you saw top notch, like, the best receiver in the league. And then he clearly wasn't that same player, still was very great, obviously. What was it like from your standpoint, bringing him back and kind of seeing that, hoping to kind of get things back to where they were the year before?
I was happy to see him come back because I knew he was going to bring a certain amount of energy. And just like the year before, everybody rallied around Brett Favre on the offense. I feel like that's what everybody was going to do this year. So I feel like Brett Favre had ran his course 2009. Everybody rallied around him. So now we have Randy there. Everybody's going to rally around too. So that'll bring more energy. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And I don't even know if Randy remembered this or not, but I'm the person who texted you. We was in a team meeting I said, well, Dad, I didn't know you got released. And you didn't know yet. And you were like, what? And I'm going to hit you back. We were in a team meeting and Coach Childress hadn't even put it out there yet, I guess, to the media, that's what he planned on doing. And apparently they didn't even tell Ziggy and them because Ziggy and them were kind of upset as well.
Now, do you think, like, I'm not trying to throw shade at Childress, even though, like, I was never a fan of his, but I never played for him.
I really wasn't either.
Do you think, say, if there was another coach in place at the time, because we got Randy, let's say, week 3 or 4, something like that, do you think if a different coach was in line at the time, that we would have been able to turn things around and maybe make another run
I think
like we did the year before?
I feel like Childress had so much more, like, ego and pride in a way, and that's what caused, like, his downfall.
The schism.
He allowed his pride to get in his way too much. And I mean, even when he first got there, when me and Dante was there, and he kept calling Dante Donovan, he kept calling me Trey Thomas. Who does that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, and who tries to pull Brett Favre at halftime of a game? Like, I mean, that
and Brett didn't get out either.
right. And it was a close game, so whatever.
Right.
But anyway, so my actual question, like Randy, this and Brian, you can chime in as well because both of you guys being drafted by Minnesota and coming here at a young age, what was your first impression of Minnesota? Like, Randy, you're from a small town in West Virginia, so Minneapolis is obviously a much larger city in that regard. But what was your initial reaction upon, coming to Minnesota? And then what are your lasting impressions of the Twin Cities?
Well, I think for me, my late brother was already a Viking before me getting drafted there. So me being able to, spend some time and, reunite, with my brother, all I wanted to do, man, was just to play football. I mean, you hear me talking about ripping the league up, and I think that I was so emotionally scarred from the process that I just wanted to play football. And I think that, what Coach Green, Red McCombs and the organization was able to create, our years there, and the magic and the happiness that we was able to bring there. It's just something I never forget. And, you always hear me talk about, the Green Bay Packers and, how much I dislike the Green Bay Packers, but
us too.
I got this green shirt on for a reason, and and it's not for the Green Bay Packers. I'm joking. It's actually
I was about ready to say it.
It's actually my Marshall green.
We were going to log off.
Hurts me.
But anyways, I think that when I look at coming to the Vikings, really, in all honesty, I look at the rivalry between the Minnesota Vikings and the Green Bay Packers, and I think that in my 14 years of playing in the National Football League, I think that was probably the best rivalry that I've ever played in. And that's just something, that I never forget. And that's just, all the hatred and all the trash talk that we talk on now, that we reminisce. I do it out of love, just for you fans to just be able to get a good laugh and stuff. But really, in honesty, the Battle of the Borders is one of the best rivalries in football, man. And I think it's good for the players because the players understand the rivalry. I think it's good for the fans because they understand it. And, my lasting impression on the state of Minnesota is just, the love that they have for their sports, team and their sports figures, man. I mean, the same love that you guys have for me. I know I've been through a lot. I know I've taken some of the great, liable, trustworthy Viking fans through some ups and downs, man. And I really appreciate the real ones that really stuck it out, with me with Big Mac, with other teammates, with up and down seasons, man. Of being able to come back on podcasts, being able to go to signings and come back to Minnesota and still receive the love. I mean, my biggest accomplishment that I wanted to bring to state, man, I wanted to win a Super Bowl for the Vikes. You know what I'm saying? And, that's why, with the 15-1 season, my rookie year, and being able to come up with 17 touchdowns, I felt that was a year. But I think that, they wanted to keep the chains on me, and I'm not really going to reflect on that. I really wanted you to, to answer your question on, my time there and just some lasting impressions, man. And like I said, man, just the memories that I have just going around from, meeting people and, having guys like Big Mac still in my circle, man. It's just something that was special about the Vikings, man. So when I go back to the Twin Cities and see the fans and, the same love that I've always have, I try to give them in return, man. And like I say, man, I appreciate it. And thank you guys for just the real ones, just sticking it up, sticking through it.
Gotta love the fishing spots too, right?
Oh, yeah, that's hands down, no doubt.
All right, Sally, you're up.
Okay, well, speaking about the fans and how much you love us and we love you, we really want your number retired. I know shade to Cordero Patterson or Irv Smith Jr. Obviously, they're great, but we don't want anyone else to wear your number. It's your number. 84 belongs to you. Does it bug you that they retired Chris Carter's number and not yours? What is the holdup? And do you even care?
Man, Sally, I've been through so much, entering the National Football League that, man, I'm just happy to take a few dollars and a couple memories, man, and just love my family. I don't sit there and cry over no spilled milk, man. I mean, a number, for Chris Carter to be able to overcome a lot of obstacles and just have his accomplishments and reach his goals and get that Hall of Fame jacket and have his number retired. And I know what he's been through, man. So I'm not going to sit over there and just cry that, hey, what he did, hey, I should have mine retired too. No, I don't play like that, man. I love the game of football. I respect the game of football, Sally. I respect all my teammates. I don't degrade or talk bad about anybody, you know, from anybody that's wore 84 to anybody that's going to wear 84 in the future. I love the game of football, man. And like I said, just being able to be, you know, I consider myself an ambassador of the game of pro football, the NFL. And like I said, I don't care if they retire my number. You know, like I said, for me to be able to take, you know, my accomplishments, being able to take a little bit of money that I got and being able to watch my family grow. Hey, man, that's a retired jersey right there, man. That's good enough for me.
All right, we got two more for Randy. Dom, you go with the second to last one.
All right, for my last question, I wanted to ask a fun hypothetical. So at your current age, looks like you keep in pretty good shape. So if you had to play one more game and suit up, do you think you could still put up some numbers?
If I could play one more game, I would tell a coach this, Dominique. You got to put me in the red zone. You got to put me in the red zone from like the 30 to the 25-yard line and in. And you give me, what'd you say, one game?
Just one game. You just got to make it one game.
They're going to have to roll coverage. They would have to roll coverage. You know, I look at the game. The game is a little. The game has been simplified a little bit, as I would say. You know, just being able to look at, you know, the techniques that they're playing, and now just being able to sit there and be an analyst and analyze the game. I really still think that I can play, you know, in this league. And like I say, it's all in my mind. I think from a physical standpoint, you know, I just work out just to keep the little pain bugs away from me. But, you know, like, man, when I retired and gave this game up, you know, the guys, you know, basically took it and ran with it. And like I say, I love commentating. I love going on Monday Night Football. I love, you know, Sunday ESPN Countdown, being able to talk about the game as the guys prepare, and then being able to look at the games throughout the day, watch Sunday Night Football, and then go talk about, you know, what I saw the day prior on Monday Night Football. So, you know, man, it's a great job. Like I say, I love to watch the game, man. I love the game of football, and I wouldn't want to no other way.
And then, so, you know, obviously you're still very close to the game and everything. And we're not going to talk about how Bryant got his Super Bowl ring, because we know that unfortunately it was against you. So, you know, it's, well, Bryant, I'm sure, is happy. But anyways, so obviously all your individual success that you had in your career, I know, like, I'll reference LaDainian Tomlinson, because he had said that he would never trade anything he did for a Super Bowl. How do you feel, or what are your sentiments on that? Would you trade any of your individual accolades or any of your records, numbers for a Super Bowl ring, or are you content with how your career played out?
I think that the way that they wanted it to play out, it played out, and I'm happy with that. Okay. And you know, I don't hold any grudges, and like I say, I always reflect back, and I can look at highlights and look at my teammates and stuff like that, man. When you look at, you know, plays that I was able to make and being able to shake or chest bump a guy that's no longer here, man, you talking about being able to just, you know, sit back and reflect. I wouldn't want to change it. I mean, I think that when you hear the fans, you know, sit up there talk about, hey, man, the one thing you're missing is a Super Bowl. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, a Super Bowl ring, there's guys with Super Bowl rings that was the 52nd or the 51st man on the team that you don't hear about. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I don't have a Super Bowl ring, but you know, my slogan is "You got them all." So I think it's that.
Right.
I think today, when you look at, you know, I did my thing. I was able to put it down, just able to reach the ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl ring. But, you know, for 14 years, you know, of playing in the National Football League, for every last teammate that I ever had for 14 years, I want to let them know, man, I put it down for you. I was able to sacrifice, didn't get the job done. If I'm drawing 2 and I'm drawing 3 guys, man, I'm trying to do my job. I'm not trying to make light of it or trying to, you know, be mean about it. But like I say, man, I put it in, been able to come into work early, been able to leave late with taking care of my body, preserving my body, man. I put it down for a lot of, my teammates, mainly, of course, you're going to say your family, but being able to, like I say, man, for me and Mac to be able to have the relationship after all these years, man, where he can just call me, text me, hey, man, what you doing? I need you to do X, Y, and Z, man. That's the type of love, that you have that a lot of players don't have leaving the National Football League, man. So being able to have my health, being able to have my money and relationship with guys like Mac, hey, man, I wouldn't change it.
Excellent. The very last thing, Randy, that I've always been curious about, and I've been a Vikings fan since 1996. The quarterbacks that I mentioned at the top of the show, you played with 13 different ones that threw you touchdown passes. So from Culpepper, Cunningham, and Brady down on to Andrew Walter and Colin Kaepernick. Based on your acrobatic style, which quarterback skill set, the way he threw the ball, best suited your wide receiving needs?
Wow, that's a great question. I think that, when you look at the chemistry that, Dante and I had, when you look at the chemistry that Tom and I had, I think that just came with over time. But when you look at, some of the chemistry that I was able to make with, quarterbacks in a short period of time, I would say guys like, Gus Farrat, Jeff George, of not being able to have a lot of time to work and then being able to go out and put those numbers up. And, I've always been big fans, throughout, my career, of being thankful to have a guy like Gus Farrat, being able to, come in as a backup, Jeff George being able to come in as a backup. But, my love and heart is with my man Dante. My heart and love is with Tom Brady, man. It's just, the magic that we was able to make, the relationship that we was able to make. And you always hear me talk about relationships, man, because, it's kind of like, as you get older and start reflecting back, man, football is just a game, no different than a game of chess, no different than a game of checkers. But I think that when you're able to take relationships, away from something like this, man, and just to get to know people a little bit better, a guy like Tom, a guy like Dante, them guys are on my speed dial, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like, I don't really have a favorite quarterback, but if you ask me who I love, of course, I'm going to say my man Tom, my man Dante, man, because the relationships that we was able to have off the field, there's been some ups and downs, but when you look and reflect back, man, it's just genuine love that we have for one another. But I don't want to take away from the magic that Gus Farrat and Jeff George and I.
All right. It's noted and it lives forever now. All right, my man. Well, we want to say thank you. And I hope that you know this. I'm sure that you do, but I need you to understand this, that there is a segment of Vikings fans that, in my opinion, were born from about 1970 to 1990 that are Vikings fans solely because of you, because of what you brought to the game, on the field, off the field, the whole shebang. And there are not many players in any sport that can claim that. And I know thousands of Vikings fans, and your name always comes up as the guy, and you seemingly single-handedly brought thousands, if not millions, of folks to this team. So I want to relay our gratitude to that. And we appreciate you coming on the show, sir.
I'll second that. I was 11 years old and I was always a Vikings fan, but the second that, like that first game in Lambeau, it was like, this is the guy, this is the team that I will. And so while in a way I kind of hate you a little bit for it because of all the hurt it's caused over the years, but no, I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I appreciate it. But I do have one final question for you, and I hope you're able to answer this the way I want. If you don't write checks, how are you going to pay it?
Man, you know what? Let me say this to all the Viking fans, Sally, Dustin, Ryan, Dominique, Big Mac. I appreciate the love, man. All the love and excitement that I gave y'all for all the time, and y'all becoming Viking fans. I want to say, man, straight cash, homie.
All right, appreciate it.
Cheers
I had to do it.
Cheers to all the Viking fans. Sko, A Dustin, Big Mac, Sally, I appreciate y'all's time, man. I'm gonna get back to my family. I'm on vacation.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Like I said, man, much love to y'all. Sko, baby.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
it.
joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, take it easy.
Okay.
Have a
Thanks,
good one.
Randy. Thanks, Dominique. I'll
Yeah,
send you
thank
guys
you.
the link. You'll probably see it on Twitter in about 45 minutes.
I
Okay.
had to end it like that. I had to ask. I had to
Yeah.
get a
Ron,
straight
what's your,
cash from the homie
Instagram?
from the man himself.
Me? Bryant, what'd you say?
Ron, you have Instagram?
I'm TC Browner
No, he's
651.
talking to Dominique.
Oh, Dom. Yeah. All right. I don't do anything on it.
No, I said
You
Ron.
said Ron.
Oh yeah, TC Browner 651.
Oh,
Oh, my bad.
I get tagged in my kids' photos, but that my wife posts, but that is about it. So
Have a
on
good
the
night,
comment
guys.
on a post of mine, TC Browner. Oh, okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Dominique, thank you for joining us, sir.
Yeah, thank you. You guys have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Sally.
Yep.
Sally always has good questions too.
Hell yeah.
And I don't know, but
Yeah,
She's not
yours
afraid to
were good.
ask some of the
I
nitty
need
Yeah, I
more
like her
ones.
because she's not afraid to answer certain questions.
Yeah, see, she likes to get down in the weeds where I'm a little reluctant, but then they love her questions, so I need to adapt my fucking style.
I need more Brad Childress tea. I had more to ask. And, I mean, my itch was a little scratched, but I got more to ask. I need to know.
Well, that went so
So-
well. Besides the audio on his end, that went so well that I bet you we can have him back later this summer.
Yeah.
Well, I can just
I'm
talk to
gonna talk to
D-Mac
him about
about
coming
it.
back because his audio was in and out.
Yeah, don't certainly. I mean, it definitely was his Wi-Fi's fault, but we want him back. So whatever way you can do
Yeah.
that.
Maybe during the
guys-
football season when
Yeah, maybe
when
during
he's
the season.
more
I'm thinking
entrenched
more during the
entrenched in
season.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's
All right.
West Virginia, you guys. Like, give us a break. Okay?
All right, you guys have a good night.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, you guys.
Thank you guys.
See ya.